Welcome to Two Bald Men Fighting Over a Comb, a podcast in which two follically challenged ne'er-do-wells venture to the fountain of knowledge and wash their smalls. I'm the artist formerly known as Tom, and I'm joined by Rob.
Interestingly, my name's not pronounced how you spell it. It's actually spelled with a silent TH at the front of it.
I know that. Now everyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's been tickling your grey cells of late?
Well, don't know. This the last week they launched Threads, which is a new social media platform, which is by Meta, the people who do Facebook and Instagram, and it just got me thinking in terms of access to like social media, the messages that you can put out on social media, and I wondered whether there should be some form of like psychological test or something to not necessarily to stop you from using them, but almost like in your bio it contains certain things. It says, this person is gullible, just paraphrasing, or this person is very argumentative, this person is like a narcissist or something or other. You don't necessarily see what it is, but
Everyone else
it allows,
does.
so that gives people a flavour. It's like, it's like, okay, people who are used to arguing are good at arguing, and they're not very rational. And that's why I come unstuck if I ever have a discussion, or if I bump into someone and they start having an argument with me. It's like, hang on, that's really irrational. I'm trying to be rational. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's never happened. Touch wood, but where does touch wood come from? Anyway, no, and on the back of that, just as I was saying about people being able to post anything that they want, and then it just started making me think about like conspiracy theories and how, particularly like during COVID, there seemed to be a hell of a lot of these conspiracy theories kind of going around. I mean, for example, like the 5G masts, people saying that 5G gives you cancer, it gives you COVID. They even saying that the COVID vaccine was had a micro 5G chip in it, and it was all the way up to like monitoring and stuff. I mean, the thing is, like, they rolled it out to all these old people first and the vulnerable, and they're all staying at home. So what are they going to gain from that? All right, yeah, we know that all these people are staying at home, and there's these protests.
You know what old people are like as well. They might have a microchip in them, but they won't know how to use it.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, what? And I don't know,
They won't turn it on.
Yeah. Or they leave it on, or it just completely messes up, or it breaks the internet, or the masts, or what have you. But no, like even like the COVID vaccine, you had those people saying like, oh, they went on marches saying like, I don't want to have it. It's like, well, you don't have to. It's voluntary, So what's that all about? But they were trying to force their opinions, and I guess from the social media aspect, it gave them quite a prominent voice. If you were to search, do a term for COVID. But I mean, there are a number of conspiracy theories that I quickly looked at, which I'll give you a list of like some of the ones just to give you an idea of what I was thinking in terms of why I think social media should have these psychological tests to them. There's the first one, like Disney, they created the film Frozen to ruin the Google algorithms because of Walt Disney. There's that rumor going around that his head is cryogenically frozen, and so they created the film basically so that when people said Walt Disney Frozen, it's like boom, the film would come up, as opposed to all this research they wanted to try to quash that link to the story. The other one, an old one, is obviously the world is flat. That's been since the beginning of time, probably predates the internet. Obviously, you got fake moon landings. We're all living in the Matrix. There's glitches and bits, and
Red or blue pills.
Well, exactly. You can take the blue pill, and you'll whatever it is, the red pill, you wake up tomorrow with a sore ass. The moon isn't real, where people believe it's like a big projection, strange. The Titanic didn't actually sink, which, it takes a lot of people to almost convince to maintain that lie. And then chemtrails, so aeroplane exhausts, they are filled with chemicals. even though if you disperse something at that altitude, by the time it was to reach us humans on the ground, it would have all been thinned out through natural air. And the final one is Paul McCartney is Dead, which obviously that goes back to like 1966. That was from an American DJ who thought that Paul McCartney had died in a car crash, and then that was contained in the lyrics to A Day in the Life about, he blew his mind out in a car, and that they replaced Paul McCartney with somebody who won a Paul McCartney look-alike competition, and then, there's loads, like the fact that on the Abbey Road cover, Paul McCartney's not wearing shoes.
I think with all these conspiracies, they don't hold up when they're closely examined, do they?
Well, again, that's how people interpret them, isn't it? So when you say closely examined, but it's about, right, from a rational point of view, you look at them and you go, actually, do you know what, it's ridiculous. But somebody else will look at it and go, do you know what, I believe in that. Or the government, it's like, they're influencing us through this, that, and the other. There's only, there's like, the Illuminati and all those. So lots.
They're quite simplistic arguments, and they sort of work with coincidences and sort of snapshots of the overall context that seem very convincing to people. So, the people who don't necessarily look into things with any great depth are quite willing to take them at face value. And with social media having a lack of gatekeeping, it's easier for those ideas to proliferate, isn't it? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's that thing of, is there a responsibility by these social medias that when they've got people spouting, I know they used to have these things, little warning things saying like, click here. I'm using COVID as an example. Click here to understand, from the NHS or from the government. But then people are like, well, it's the government website, isn't it? Of course they're going to tell us this. And so it's almost like they have that paranoia, they have that kind of intrinsic feeling of, well, anything that is out there, or that's fake news. And similar to, I guess, with Brexit, where people were convinced that as the best thing. There was research done post Brexit, after the the votes and everything, that they were able to understand that people who voted Brexit, even if you were to present them all the information that said how Brexit is bad now in real examples, they still wouldn't be convinced, because it's like, no, I'm not changing my mind. And so it's very difficult to change someone's opinion no matter how much information you give them. So it's almost that thing of trying to get, well, are they predisposed to believing those type of things? Or is it the fact that something bad has happened, or they just have, I'm using COVID again as an example, where everyone is locked in, their mental health deteriorating, stuff like that. And so they're seeing examples or ways to kind of rebel against the thing that is imposing this, isolation. So I don't know.
I think looking at conspiracy theories as this big threat and something to, the proliferation, something to be scared of, is not the way to fight them. To try and argue, like you say, to try and argue rationally against them. I think a good, for me, the best way of fighting back against these conspiracy theories is to laugh at them.
Are you ill, Tom? Have you had a vaccine?
Yes, well, maybe I need one.
It's killing you.
But I think a good demonstration of it is people who come up with spoof conspiracy theories. Although some of these people start believing them as if they're real, but there's a great spoof conspiracy theory called "Birds Aren't Real." I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Well, yeah, about 5 minutes ago when you first mentioned it, before you had to edit all your mistakes.
You're a cunt.
Well, you know what? You are what you eat. Leave it in. No, Tom, sorry, I haven't heard of birds are drones. No,
I find this difficult, right? You're making it harder by rolling your eyes at me, you bastard.
I'm worried about. I'm trying to get all this stuff in before my quiz at the end, because I'm a bit worried about it.
Anyway, the guys who believe this birds aren't real, well, the guys who created this birds aren't real, claim that the birds sit on power lines to recharge themselves.
That would make sense.
Yeah, it would. That they poop on cars as a tracking method.
All right.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, some of the biggies I've had on my car. Oh, that's why they do it straight after you've cleaned it. To be like,
yeah, it's like you've got rid of the tracking.
all right.
Let's put it back there again.
Jeez.
And another thing they claim is that John F. Kennedy was assassinated by the government due to his reluctance to kill all of the birds.
Well, I did hear a lot of pigeons back in the day, we're trying to overthrow the government because they kept going, coo, coo.
Oh, that's very good.
Actually, talking of conspiracy theories, and you just mentioned JFK, there was one that I watched probably about 5 years ago. It was called The Smoking Gun, and it's on YouTube. It's by this Australian dude, and it was about the JFK assassination. And it actually does make sense. This is where I'm a conspiracy theory nut. And it was, well, have a look on YouTube, listeners, or maybe I'll try and post a link on our Instagram page. Yeah, basically, they had all the same FBI agents, apart from one, because the next day, I think the driver or someone or whatever, it was really or they were all hungover or something like that. And this one guy who wasn't the one who was hungover, he was given the gun. But when he tried to move it, it shot forwards and it blew Kennedy's brains out. But anyway, you have to watch it. It kind of makes sense in the fact that all this stuff has been hushed up and everything else. But I haven't tweeted it or said anything about it, but I'm doing it like a mole. I'm doing it underground. I'm doing it kind of, just one person at a time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you sold it to me, Rob.
It's the way I explain stuff. I think is what it is. Definitely. You mentioned about celebrities and them going into this thing of, we mentioned Brass Eye. They want to put their name to a lot of things because they want to be on TV. They don't want to lose that kind of touch and stuff. I remember during the COVID thing, the Captain Tom, who walked 100 laps in his garden. I mean, the guy was bored. What else is he going to do? Do you know what I mean? Watch Pointless all day? No. There's only so many episodes of Columbo. And when you get to 99 years old, you've watched them all anyway, right?
Yeah.
There was all this stuff afterwards. He's captured the mood of the nation. Well, my mood at that time was eating a shitload of crisps and watching every episode of Friends. Not good. But you had all these celebrities tweeting saying like, he should be, they should put his statue on the 4th plinth in Trafalgar Square. They should do this, they should do that. And they're all trying to outdo each other. Fuck it, make him the Prime Minister. He couldn't have done any worse job than Boris. But it just seemed all these people, it's almost like, look, Amanda Holden has said this, Nick Knowles. And it's like, God, just shut up. You don't, they all kind of felt, I don't know, worthless, because fundamentally, what are celebrities? It's just people who just, I don't know, maybe look nice but personality-wise. I mean, look at the news story currently about the BBC presenter who is meant to be well known or whatever it is, asking that 17-year-old for pictures or to do stuff. I mean, that's going to come out soon, who it is, and that's going to be like, blimey. But yeah, that is something separate, I know. And that's just my little rant about bloody famous people or celebrities. I think this day and age, celebrities is, with social media, you know what they've had for breakfast, when they've taken a shit, all these different things with these filters on. Whereas before, I think in the golden age of cinema and, in the 50s and 60s.
Do they have filters on their shit?
I do, so I can see exactly what I've eaten, and pull out any kind of like rocks or something like that.
You eat rocks?
I'm on a earthy diet. That's what it is. Just fibre. There's vitamins in the soil apparently, which I'm not getting enough of. So I thought I'd have some of those.
Antibiotics.
Yeah, and plus I don't know what I swallow in the night. I might do sleep eating or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you can regulate that, can't you? Your sleep eating.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't get
your
sleep.
filters on your poop.
I don't get sleep. So yeah, it's conspiracy theories. I just find that, I think so I don't know, maybe it's not from social media, the fact that, there are more of conspiracy theories knocking about. It's just that we are hearing more of them because of there is that space for people to have it. It's like dementia, or Alzheimer's. We're seeing these massive amounts of cases. It's like, well, maybe the reporting's just better on it,
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier on to you, it's about gatekeeping, isn't it? I mean, conspiracy theories in olden times, before the internet and social media, someone might have written their book and released it, and 50 people bought it. But now it's like, someone can come up with an idea, a conspiracy theory, and they've got no gatekeepers in social media to say, this guy's a bit of a fraudster or a bit of a strange one. Let's just ignore him. Let's not review his book or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, another way I view conspiracy theories is I look at what's behind them, because I mean we've talked so far today with the sort of notion that the people behind them are just average Joes sat behind their computer with an idea and
yeah, let's do a podcast.
Let's do a podcast, yeah. but I think there's a lot of conspiracy theory, the pushing of conspiracy theories that comes from certain ideologies. I mean, you talk about flat Earth conspiracy. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some elements in the religious right, Christian right, that pushes that. That there are quite a lot of links with the far right ideologies and certain conspiracy theories. These are people who haven't been recognised in the mainstream in media and politics and can't really get a foothold in it, but they've got this opportunity with social media and with the internet to get their ideas and their platform recognised and not have the same scrutiny that they would have if they were trying to go into politics conventionally. I mean, if you look at right-wing politics in the UK, it's like parties have tried to get into mainstream politics and failed miserably. They never got a foothold, but suddenly there's this opportunity to start spreading misinformation through an arena where no one can really see you and where you've come from, and no one can really pin it down to you that's making the information. And you'll find a lot of people will believe, one or two conspiracy theories and not recognise, the origin of these conspiracy theories comes from something they don't agree in, be it right-wing politics or conservative Christian people in America, stuff about evolution and so forth. So yeah, I don't know what you think about that, Rob.
Well, no, I mean, I picked up one thing you said at the beginning of what you just said about we're assuming that these people are ordinary Joes. And it got me thinking, do you think that there's some form of, I don't know, mental health there in terms of, what leads these people to constantly believe in all these conspiracy theories? What is it that, is it just the fact that these people are gullible, or that these people are intelligent, super intelligent, and they, or they have is autism related to this? I don't know. Or is schizophrenia, or, where people look for these things where, for example, if it's the conspiracy theory that the government, say, is controlling them or watching everything that they do, then everything that they do, they see patterns in, or what? So is that connected? Or?
Yeah, I think so. There are personality traits and characteristics that have been identified as existing in people who go with conspiracy theories, who believe them. It's not a surprising list. It's paranoid and suspicious thinking, eccentricity, low trust in others, a belief that the world is a dangerous place, and seeing meaningful patterns where none exist.
All right.
So conspiracy theories often emerge during unsettling times, such as wars and recessions and the like,
Lockdowns.
Pandemics.
Yeah.
So I think they're a shortcut way for people to understand the world or feel that they've got a special knowledge. And I think that alleviates anxiety. So we're talking about mental health before. It's like an ICU. If someone can say that they recognise what's going on, it sort of quells the existential threat that exists in their mind when bad stuff is happening around them. So I think there's a real pull for people to believe conspiracy theories in bad times. What would you say to that?
Well, when you said ICU, I thought
Yeah.
because we obviously were on FaceTime.
Mm.
I don't know. ICU, but like looking nonplussed. I thought was what you're going to say next.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as you say, it's if you're going through a traumatic experience, because I think you could put it down to again, I'm going back to like the pandemic, wars, where you don't have that control over it, and where we are creatures of habit and almost kind of like the masters of our own destiny and everything else. When these things are suddenly taken from us, even routine, getting up, going to work, all that stuff, as soon as that is all kind of broken, then we feel discombobulated, isn't it? There's that thing, and if that happens over a long period of time, then of course I think you're right. People will start looking for meaning in things, and as you say, if you're in hospital, then suddenly you are going to think rationally or irrationally to almost give yourself the narrative that you want to understand and makes you feel more comfortable.
You see a lot of paranoia that exists in hospitals around patients. That this is all a big conspiracy. That
the doctors aren't telling them everything.
Yeah, or then it sort of like steps into delirium. Where people think that they're on a big spacecraft, and it's the nurses aren't nurses; they're strange aliens and things. You can sort of see the link and how it develops from paranoia and trying to gain control over your situation to something a bit more.
You just reminded me of another conspiracy theory about there is a cure for cancer, but people don't want to use it because there's a lot of money to be made in treating people. It's like, right.
I think that's again people believing the world is a dangerous place and low trust in others, isn't it? That's back to that list we went through before. I found a 2008 peer-reviewed study by someone called Whitson and Galinsky. And basically, they found that lacking control in a situation increased a person's likelihood to perceive non-existent patterns, including developing superstitions and believing in conspiracies. I think research bears out what we've been talking about here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the perceiving non-existent patterns because that really interests me. There's the phenomenon. The phenomenon. It has a name. It's called apophenia, and it's a remnant of our evolution.
That's something to do with your skin, isn't it?
No, that's there's lots of things. Alopecia, eczema, psoriasis, but it's a remnant of our evolution. So we're sort of through evolution, we're set up to see patterns when maybe they're not there. Because if you think about a simplistic example, if you were the caveman who was paranoid and you jumped at everything that you saw as a pattern that could spell danger, you were much more likely to live because like 1 out of 100 times, the thing that you thought was danger would be danger, and the chilled out caveman who lived next door to you,
quickly
he just went about his day, who wasn't paranoid, would get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger, whereas you'd be over the hill and running, wouldn't you? And live many
that
years
rustling
longer.
in the bushes. Oh, it's just my wife taking this shit. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can see how evolution would select for the animal or the being that saw patterns where maybe patterns didn't exist, because they wouldn't be killed by things, and so that would reinforce over years and years and years. And it's something that we do. I mean, we've all looked up at the clouds and seen animals in the clouds, or a face on the moon, or you name it. We see things and patterns where they don't exist. It's a natural human thing to do. I think it's to do with the extremity of doing it. If you do it too much, then you're stepping into the realms of schizophrenia and schizoid behaviour. If you do it just a little bit, because it's built into your genes and it's normal. So I think when we look at conspiracy theories and the like, I think this is people who are trying to see patterns or seeing patterns that maybe don't exist, being led towards seeing those patterns by people who want something from them. And these are people who do it more excessively than normal people, who just do it when they look up at the cloud and go, "Oh, it looks like a sheep."
It's following me.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Sheep's following. There's another one over there.
I've just buttered my toast, and I see the face of Jeebus.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a question.
Peeps.
Right. So when I was at university, I stayed. I was on the second floor. My room was 228. Right. And then there was a period of time when I would notice when 228 would appear a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd always look at my watch and I'd be like, oh my God, I've looked at my watch when it's like 228. I've looked at it again. But I mean, I looked at my watch hundreds of times in the day, probably. Well, not that many. But it's that interesting. It's like, oh, okay. But I didn't,
that's got a name, Rob. It's called confirmation bias. So
I wasn't confirmed,
remember...
but what was I confirming though? I was just like, oh, okay. Oh,
well,
okay.
no,
I just thought my body was getting into a routine of knowing that the internal clock in my body was like, oh, it's 2:28. Look at your watch.
It's about what you notice. So the confirmation bias means you will remember each of the times you saw the 228, but it will disregard all of the times you saw other numbers because they didn't fit into the story in your head about the special number. So basically, confirmation bias is disregarding information that might disprove a belief while seeking information that supports it.
Do you think I should get the tattoo I've got of 228 and my arm removed then? It's not special.
Well, you'll see it less often if you do.
Well, I look at it in the mirror, it's 855 or so. I don't know, it looks weird when I look at it in the mirror. No, I haven't really got a tattoo.
Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? But yeah, there are other kinds of apophenia. So there's one which is pareidolia, which is what we were talking about with seeing faces and shapes of animals in clouds and things. So it's basically visual elements.
Oh, and acting upon them? So, because when I see
Not
and I see
like
two eyes and a mouth, and I think that's cute, and I'll take a picture of it.
Yeah,
I see that. But
it's not the acting upon, though. It's just about the phenomenon. The phenomenon of seeing the pattern when it doesn't exist. It doesn't necessarily have to have an action.
So they see it everywhere and all the time, and then that increases their paranoia, or
no, not necessarily. No, I mean it is a symptom of schizophrenia. So where you have an illness, where you have the illness, this is a symptom that will be present in it, and we all have these tendencies to a certain degree. It's to do with the degree of them. So there are other types of apophenia. There's clustering, which is a tendency to find a pattern in a random sequence of data. So you're not going to do anything crazy with that. It might just be you're a scientist who's
wasted a lot of time,
or who's just got a lot of data and finds a pattern when there isn't a pattern, and that could also sort of lead into the confirmation bias.
Oh, the MMR vaccine, is it? Where he took.
Yeah, I think that might be an example of the clustering, but then you sort of wonder whether that's someone who had an agenda or whether someone who actually believed what he was saying. And there's another, quite innocent one, but one which makes a lot of people a lot of money is gambler's fallacy. It doesn't make the gamblers any money, but the gambler's fallacy is fairly straightforward to demonstrate. It's I can say, okay, I've got a coin here. I've tossed it 10 times, and it's.
No, you haven't. I can't see it. Oh, sorry,
we're talking
hypothetically.
Hypothetically, yeah. I've tossed it 10 times, and it's come up heads 10 times. Yeah. What's it more likely to come up on the 11th time, heads or tails? And someone who's susceptible to the gambler's fallacy will say tails. They'll believe that it's more likely to land on tails because it's landed on heads 10 times in a row, but in fact it's 50-50 each time, no matter what the previous results were. So the previous results have no impact on the subsequent results. It's all about probabilities. So that's gambler's fallacy.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I was studying GCSE, I had to read Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead, which are two characters from Hamlet, but it's a book from the 60s written by Tom Stoppard. part. I think it's near the beginning of the story where one of them keeps flicking a coin, keeps tossing a coin, and it keeps landing on heads or tails. I can't remember. And every time he's like, "Wow, this is a remark." Yeah, one of them is like amazed at how many times it's done, and the other one's like, "Well, no, because each time is it's 50-50." And so that keeps going on, and then as soon as it does land on the opposite, and breaks that chain, then the scene changes. So I've kind of heard of that before, but yeah, it's interesting as you say, because I think even if I was, it's almost that thing of you could get caught up in the moment. Say for example, you're playing blackjack or craps, is it, with the dice, and you kept throwing it, and you were getting all the things that you wanted. You think to yourself, right, oh, now I could get big money, bigger money, bigger money. There's that thing of like, oh my God, and you would really take a lot of willpower to a certain degree to go, right, actually, do you know what? No, this is enough. Because it used to be, I mean, I don't know, did you ever used to watch that thing with Deal or No Deal with Noel Edmonds?
Yeah.
And I remember there was just one guy on there, and I don't know I don't think this fits in with any of the things that we're talking about, other than like, this is just bullshit, right? His mum had died or something. This guy was like in his 60s. Some of these people is like, yeah, I know it all and everything else. He gets to a certain point, the bank office is in 45 grand, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to take it because my mum said, this is where I need to go, and I'll lose it if not, or something or other, which basically his explanation that if I continue on this, or whatever it is, I'm going to lose it all, end up with nothing, so I'm going to take this 45 or 22 or whatever it was. Anyway, it turns out that he had, like, I don't know, the £250,000 or £100,000 box in front of him and all that stuff. But no one ever picked him up on the fact that, well, hang on, you said, because it's like all that spiritualism and all that crap and all this stuff about, oh yeah, people are telling me, or you can't influence what the box is, so I'm going to put my hand over the box and that'll tell me, or all that crap. And it got worse by the end of it.
There's a lot of superstition there as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
I think a really good example of the odds being king is something that Darren Brown did. He did a show about betting, and he basically took people, a group of people, and he gave them, I think, a fiver, and he told them what bet to make at the bookies, and they would go and make it, they would win. He would tell them the second bet to make, they'd go and do it and they'd win again. I think basically at the beginning he said, I will make you this amount of money, £250,000 or whatever it was, and I will give you the bets, and you just have to go and place the bets. And he had a group of 5 people who went and placed these 5 bets in a row and had a huge amount of money at the end. And they sort of filmed it all, and I think they had their own camcorders or something, and they filmed it and then they edited it all together. And then at the end of the show, everyone's going, oh, this is magical, how do you know this stuff? At the end of the show, he showed how he did it, and it was as simple as he'd given out sort of 100,000 or whatever the number was, amounts of camcorders to different people, and he'd done this same thing with the bets with all these different people, and the statistics
choosing
showed,
a different.
Yeah, and the statistics showed him before he started that by the end of it, he would have 5 people who'd won 5 times in a row, and that's all he did. He just used the numbers. 5 people, so, but watching it, you just think it was 5 people chosen. It didn't at the beginning tell you that he'd chosen so they
100.
just 5 people were chosen, given the exact right bets, because Darren Brown is a genius. But really, he just did the numbers. He just did it with enough people that the odds would mean that 5 people would win 5 bets in a row.
Wow.
We
need to do that, Tom. We need to get some. We'll get our listeners to do it.
Yeah.
So if we,
are there enough of them?
I was going to say, so if it's £1 for each listener,
I
think it's £2.50 each, Tom. We have to put capital into this.
Don't know if I've got it.
Oh.
All right, mate. I've got a quiz for you. I think we should move on.
I'm ready.
So it's a music quiz.
Oh, has your balls stopped hurting?
They have grown.
Yeah, I've been using the wheelbarrow. I hit mine so hard I had to walk around with a wheelbarrow for about 2 weeks. Excuse me, man with big balls, come through. Excuse me.
Well, you've got to experience it once in your life, haven't you?
Well, I think you experienced it 4 times, didn't you?
I did. Okay, so this is the music quiz, and This is a music quiz.
Music quiz.
And your forfeit is if you get a question wrong, I will curse you.
Curse me, eh? Oh. Well, I'll get used to it, don't I? It's probably shit I ain't heard before. Oh, shit I've heard before, sorry.
No, it won't be shit you've heard before.
It's none of it sexual, is it? Because it might turn me on.
I thought you were going to say, what about our younger listeners?
They
might turn you on.
I say if they're about 17, I've got about 35 grand in the bank.
Yeah.
I can pay you that as long as you don't get crack addicted.
But no one will give a shit, Rob, because you're not in a position of power.
I could end this call
So it would just be
now.
It would just be a consensual relationship. It would be beautiful. There wouldn't be any of that lingering anger.
Tom, a relationship with me would not be beautiful.
I'm not going to say anything to that. Before we start, I just want to go and get another cup of tea quickly. Is that okay?
Oh, fuck's sake. How long is this quiz going to be?
Do you not want me to get another cup of tea?
How long is this quiz going to be?
Not that long.
Well, wait then.
Okay. I feel sad now.
Oh, fucking...
You don't care, do you? Okay, let's
Make a
let's
tea.
get going.
Make a tea. Don't end the call. Don't stop the recording. Make your tea. You've got 2 minutes. I like your sponge. Asshole. You're having a good look in your room, Tom, whilst you're there. You alright? Is that hand lotion on the windowsill by the side of your bed? Lovely. I hope Tom has an electric kettle, listeners, because if it's a gas stove one, it's going to be a while. At least we'll hear the whistle. Whistle. I guess whilst we're waiting for Tom, I'll tell you a story very quickly. And when I was younger, I used to date this English teacher. But she thought my use of a colon was inappropriate. Now, do we think that Tom has sugar in his tea? What kind of tea is it? Is it like a supermarket own brand tea? Or has he gone Twinings? PG Tips? Tetley? Yorkshire tea? What kind of milk? Skimmed, semi-skimmed, or full fat? I reckon it's green, semi-skimmed. Because Tom strikes me as the kind of semi guy. Always with a semi. I'll put it away, Tom. I can see your nuts. I say, when you walk around your house, you really should wear something on your lower half. It's not nice watching that kind of Rantillion.
You love that word, don't you?
I do. I do. I love it.
I thought you would. Do you?
Yeah. So, how do you like your tea, Tom? What tea bags do you use?
What have I got at the minute? I don't know. It's in a tea caddy thing, so it's been filled up. Probably Yorkshire tea.
Oh, that was one of the ones I said. And what kind of milk do you put in there? What kind of milk do you have?
I have semi-skimmed milk.
Is that the green one?
Semi. The green one, yes.
Oh, I told you, listeners. Tom has a semi.
Yes.
And sugar or no sugar?
No sugar.
Sweet enough. Yeah. All right, then, let's get on with this quiz. Come on. I've got things I need to get on with, like scratching my ass.
Yeah. So do I. I've got an arse to scratch as well.
Oh no. So I'm wearing a white t-shirt, drinking black coffee. I
Okay,
used an
then.
AeroPress to make my coffee, if you're interested.
I'm not interested.
And when I saw it, I thought it was to do with like putting chocolate bars in it to squeeze it through. But no.
You're just on another galaxy, aren't you?
Oh, shitbag. Yours is funnier than mine. Come on then. Music quiz, you say.
Yes.
And you will curse me if I get it wrong.
Yes.
I'll curse myself if I get it wrong, if they're easy questions.
So question 1. What were Paul McCartney and John Lennon's middle names?
Paul James McCartney and John Winston Lennon.
No, you're wrong.
Wow.
Paul was Paul McCartney's middle name. He was James Paul McCartney. And John Lennon's first middle name was Winston, but he changed it to Ono.
Oh no. You better curse me then, Tom.
Bad cess on you, devil take you. May you never prosper. The first drop of water to quench your thirst, may it boil in your bowels. May the flesh rot off your bones and fall away putrid before your eyes. May your limbs wither and May your limbs wither and the stench of your rotten carcass be too horrible for hungry dogs. May you fade into nothing, like snow in summer. May you be accursed in the sight of God and hated by your fellow man. May you die without a priest. This I pray.
You know, you sound like my dad. No, I only got their middle names wrong. Bloody hell, that was a bit strong. Next.
Number 2. How old was David Bowie? How old was David Bowie when he died?
69.
Wrong. He was 69 in 2 days.
Oh, piss off.
He died 2 days after the release of Black Star, which was released on his 69th birthday.
All right, see. All right.
Right, this one is a Roman curse. The human who got question 2 wrong, who deprived us of a correct answer, may he be bereft of his mind and memory. May worms and maggots penetrate his hands, head, feet, as well as his limbs and marrow.
Well, as long as you leave my dick alone, I'm all right.
That's a worm already. Right.
Eel.
Question 3. The Wikipedia page, musicians killed in aviation accidents or incidents, has 3 entries under the letter V. Name all 3.
V.
V.
Ricky Valence.
Yes.
Bobby V. No. You know.
No.
Right. V.
One more chance to get it right.
I can't think of anyone. No.
Ronnie Van Sant,
Who?
and he's the one from Leonard Skinner,
All right.
and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh, I didn't know Stevie Ray Vaughan died in a plane accident.
Well, it said plane accident or incident, so he might have been
Incident.
stabbed by someone on a plane, I don't know.
Or had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Because could you say Carrie Fisher? Because she had a heart attack. Oh no.
Doesn't begin with V though, does it?
I know that, but she was all coked up, weren't she? That's why she had a heart attack. Don't do it in your 60s. Christ, I just don't do it at all. Silly.
Don't do it at all, yes.
Who was the guy who did the song Leaving on a Jet Plane?
I don't know.
John Denver. I think he died on a plane crash, ironically.
That would be ironic.
I bet he thought
Getting a
that
bit-
when he was going down. It's like
Getting a bit
isn't
corny
that
here, aren't we?
ironic by
Mhm.
Alanis?
Yeah.
Come on then, come on then, curse me.
May your Scoville scale effluent sting mightily as it departs your bowel, spattering trouser leg and pooling at your feet, whilst you cry to the gathering onlookers, it was but a fart.
I think I might have had something like that once. That's when they just released the alcoholic ginger beer, and I went, "Oh, this is nice," and I drank loads of them. And the next day, I think I was a bit overconfident on a fart. So that could have well happened to
Was
me.
it Scoville scale effluent though?
What is Scoville scale?
That's how you rate the spiciness of chilies.
Oh, was it? I was thinking about Bristol.
No, that's the Bristol stool scale. Yeah, Bristol stool scale. If I speak properly.
There's nothing still about that. I tell you, there's nothing sturdy.
That's why it would sting you if it was hot.
Oh well, it was like Muhammad Ali. It floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee.
All right, moving on. Question 4. In what year did Elton John come out to the world?
Oh, piss off! Now this is either that he's a homosexual man or that when he was born. So I'm gonna say, come out to the world, 1948.
No. So he said he was attracted to men and women in a 1976 Rolling Stone article,
Right.
but he came out as gay in 1988 in the same publication, saying he thought everyone knew he was gay.
Okay, well, there you go. I got the question kind of wrong because I thought you might be trying to trick me.
Well, it was a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I reckon if I'd have said 1988, you'd have said, "Oh no, he was born in." Bastard.
May your genitals be stripped like a carrion by craven birds to feed their fledglings by regurgitation.
You know, normally I have to pay £80 for someone to do that. Whilst I'm chained to a radiator in a basement.
You're being very calm about being cursed, Rob.
Oh, do you know what? I'm used to it. I've had a lifetime of it.
That's why your life has been so unfulfilled and rotten.
That's why I'm doing this podcast.
Yeah.
To try to right all those wrongs.
Okay, number 5. Who headlined the first Glastonbury Festival in 1970?
Mark Bolan and T-Rex.
No, it was T-Rex. They were Tyrannosaurus Rex at the time, rather than T-Rex.
Oh, you are.
After the Kinks pulled out.
Pulled out of what? Who?
Pulled out of who?
It's a good way not to have babies. Aren't the bubbers?
It reminds me, World Newsflash, World Religious Contraception Conference. Catholics pull out at the last minute. Right. May every time you offer help just to be nice, the person accepts and you must toil. May your trash bags always leak vile bin juice when taking them outside. May a drop of milk always run down your chin when you take a spoonful of cereal. May all of your teeth fall out except one, so you may still have toothache. May all of your child's artwork be finished with glitter.
Ooh, glitter.
Take that, bitch.
I will. I'm going to take that on the chin.
What, the glitter?
Now your bowl sank.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. We'll see you next time. We'll be back.